Hey, you guys. Welcome to Talk About It Thursdays. I'm your host, Karen Bailey. Let me know when you're on. I would love to say hello to you guys. You guys, I hope everybody had a wonderful Thanksgiving. I hope that you guys reconnected and got to spend some quality time. Hey, Wendy. Quality time with your family. I know this is a very busy time of year. And that was kind of why I decided on breaching this topic today. You know, we get really, really busy and we're getting all geared up for the holiday season, catching all the sales, doing all the shopping, doing all the decorating, you know, going to all the Christmas parties. All of that stuff is fun and well. But just understand that the holiday time is not always a happy time for everybody. And so we just have to be mindful of that, you know, that people are going through their own struggles during the holiday seasons. And let's not forget that. Let's not forget that people deal with stuff no matter what time of year it is, you know, and I find that there are so many people who feel unloved during the holidays. So this is one of the main reasons why I wanted to talk about this specific topic, because a lot of times, you know, we put on a brave face. We tend to look the way we want people to, you know, feel like we are. Even if we're not good, we like to try to pretend that we are, because that's less questions, that's less judgment. You know, a lot of times people won't allow you to have your own feelings, and they're not always understanding of your situation. So a lot of times people will just isolate themselves in order to not have to deal with the judgment without having to explain themselves all the time. Why are you not happy? Why are you not smiling? Why are you not this, that, or the other? You know, sometimes you just need somebody to give you a hug and say, hey, it's going to be okay. I don't know what you're going through, but I just want you to know that you're loved and you're going to be okay. So my topic today is, sis, that isolation is killing you. You know, there are times when we all enjoy our alone time, our downtime, our me time. But there are times when you just gotta have that camaraderie, that interaction with somebody else. Because too much alone time, you guys, and social isolation could actually mentally and physically kill you. And when I say kill you, what do I mean by that? I mean decrease, diminish, cause detriment to. That's what I mean when I say kill. So what does isolation for a prolonged period of time kill? Number one, our ability to communicate effectively with others is decreased. We saw that, you know, when COVID hit, when we were all kind of isolated and shelter in place type things, you know, people stopped connecting with one another. People stopped spending time with one another. And then when it was time to come back together, some people never came out of isolation. Some people still don't trust like they used to. Some people still have not reconnected with their friends and their families like they used to before all of that happened. And number two, it causes a decline in your thinking. Your cognitive ability declines over time if you spend too much time by yourself. Number three, there are risks to your mental health. Things like depression and anxiety. Those things get worse when you isolate yourself, when you hide yourself in the darkness, when you shut everybody out. Those are the things that only get worse. Hey, Nancy. And then number four, it can kill your physical health. Prolonged isolation can cause you to have health problems, you guys. People who don't interact with people who have shut off the world, they tend to have heart problems over time. Some of them even have strokes over time, high blood pressure, and all of those things are going to lead to a premature death. You know, there's a reason God created us the way that he created us. You know, even in the Bible, it talks about it in Genesis 2:18. And y'all, I'm going to be honest, this scripture has been quoted to me wrong. It's been preached to me wrong. It's been taught to me wrong pretty much my whole life. And until I decided that I wanted to get the knowledge of God's word for myself, I really didn't understand it. And I believed what everybody else told me and preached to me and taught me. And this scripture says, Genesis 2:18, it's not good for man to be alone. You know, preachers my whole life have geared that towards being single. Like being single was a curse. Like if you're not married, then you're going to be doomed to a horrible life. You're going to be sad. You're not going to have a long life. You know, that's how it was taught to us, even in Sunday school and Wednesday night Bible study, as if God was saying that it's not good to be alone only if you were single. And I just find that to not be the truth. Now that I study for myself, I understand now. There's nothing wrong with being single. It was not about singleness. It was about having a lack of love. You know, when you go on love for a long period of time, it's going to break you down. It's not good for you mentally or physically. When you go without companionship and fellowship and support, it's going to affect you in a negative way. That's what it means by it's not good for man to be alone. God created us to be relational. And that's why he brought Eve into the picture, because he didn't want Adam walking through the garden alone, because he needed a partner. He needed fellowship. He needed somebody to talk to besides God. He needed someone that he could support and be supported by. That's what it means, that it's not good for man to be alone. And just like it was then, it's the same way now, you guys. Because isolation itself, especially for long periods of time, it disrupts the social connection that we were all born to have. You know, even when we were little, you guys, we always wanted to be friends with this group, that group. If we saw a little girl or a little boy on the playground, kids navigate naturally to that child, even if they don't know that child. It's just something about us that's inside of us that wants us to connect. And so I know that there has to be God, because a small child doesn't have any way of being taught that. That's something that's instinctively inside of them, to run over and go play with the other children, to go over and sit down in the sandbox and start playing with that little girl's doll and talking to that little girl. Those are things that God put inside of us. So while sometimes we do need some time to ourselves, it's not good to stay that way. And that's what I believe God was saying. It wasn't so much about marriage. Marriage is beautiful, but marriage is just not for everybody. And being married or being single, you're still blessed. There's no difference in the two. As far as I'm concerned, you can be happy married and you can be happy single. But the choice is up to you. You have to do your part to make those connections, so that you do have fellowship, so you do have partnership, so you do have the support that you need. So we have to do the work, and that requires us to come out from hiding, come out from isolating ourselves. And I know, y'all, I know people are something else to deal with. There are times when I want to retreat myself, and sometimes I do. I retreat. I get out of town, I get me an Airbnb, and I get away from everybody. But I know the kind of person I am, the kind of love I have, the kind of compassion I have, the need to connect that I have. I can't do that for a prolonged period of time because I start feeling some type of way if I don't have those interactions, if I don't have those conversations, if I don't feel that partnership in my life. So isolation, like I said, disrupts essential social connections that lead to chronic stress, you guys. When you're going through something, and like we all have, when you're going through it, even though that person may not be able to help you with your situation, doesn't it feel good just to have somebody there praying for you, somebody that texts and say, hey, how you doing? I know you're having a rough time. I just wanted to check on you. It's just something about knowing that somebody else cares, whether they can help you or not. It gives you that extra strength that you need to keep pushing forward and keep pushing through to the other side of that situation. But people who isolate themselves for long periods of time, do you know that whatever situation they're going through, it just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger? You know, as long as you push everybody away, God can't send anybody to help you. God can't send anybody to encourage you and give you the strength that you need. And isolation also disrupts your sleep. You know, when you're by yourself and you feel like you're going through life struggling by yourself, you're not going to have good sleep habits. And then when you don't have good sleep habits, all kinds of medical problems come up. And a lot of times we don't make good decisions. We don't make good decisions. Sometimes when we're left to our own devices and having to figure stuff out all by ourselves, you know how we say we don't want anybody in our business. Sometimes by doing that, you don't get the wisdom that you need from somebody that's been through that situation. When you're trying to be so private and I don't want anybody all up in my business, sometimes you need somebody to help you work something out that has some experience with what you're dealing with. So you have to be careful about that, because sometimes you'll jump and make a bad decision over ignorance. If you'd have just let somebody in with some wisdoms, they could have helped guide you through the situation that you were in. And just understand, when you decide that you want to isolate yourself, when you decide that you're getting away from everybody, you're not fooling with nobody, you're not talking to anybody, you're not going anywhere, you set up a vicious cycle. And without that psychological support that we give to one another, you're going to see some mental issues coming up in your life. Emotional pain from loneliness is going to show up. When you have decided to not let anybody in, you're going to get lonely. It's inevitable. It's coming. And there's going to be pain from that, because you're going to want to share things with somebody. You're going to want to talk things over. You're going to want to express yourself to somebody. And there's nobody there for you to talk to. And when you have prolonged loneliness, your body stresses. It stresses more. And it causes chronic problems like inflammation. You get sick more often. Your immune system gets weak. And then you're more prone to disease and infection. And isolation and loneliness, they feed each other. Because if you're isolating yourself, loneliness is just right around the corner. And you'll find it harder to manage and to make good decisions. And depression is going to come. So you got isolation, then you've got loneliness, and guess what? Here comes depression and anxiety. They all follow each other, y'all. They all follow each other around. So that's why you have to be careful. And I know the holidays are hard for some people. simply because while we're excited and we're happy and we're looking forward to the holidays, somebody lost a loved one about this time of year. Somebody lost a friend. You know, somebody had a crisis happen in their life, a medical crisis happen to themselves around this time of year. You know, those things don't pick and choose the season. People die, people get bad medical reports. You know, those things happen year round. So there's no time of year that's absent of that. And so what we have to be mindful of, y'all, is that we have people out there that smile a lot, that go along to get along, but they may be broken on the inside. And that's why we need to be more in tune with the people in our circle and just make sure that they're good. Not just one time. You put forth the effort to truly make sure that they're good. You make sure that you're the one that puts a smile on their face during this holiday season. You make sure you're the one that goes by and checks on them. Don't accept that, oh, I'm good, I'm fine. If you really love them, make sure that they're okay. Make sure that they're good. Make sure that they're fine. And then we often make excuses when we're busy and people get left behind. You know, I'm guilty of that. You know, sometimes I feel like I need to slow down so that I can check on the people around me. I need to slow down so that I can make sure that I'm available if somebody needs somebody to talk to or somebody needs somebody to lean on. You know, we forget sometimes what this Christmas season is all about, with all the lights and the tinsels and the sales. All of that stuff is very attractive and alluring. But we forget that this whole holiday season is about love. It's about love. And we got to keep that as the basis of whatever we do this holiday season. And part of love is showing up. Part of love is seeing behind the mask that everybody puts on. Part of love is asking those hard questions. You know, when you know somebody has had a hard time, or when you can tell something seems a little bit off about people. If you really love them, don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to get in their business, because you're doing it for the right reason. And then a lot of times people show you signs that they're going through things in the holiday season. Number one, they'll often make excuses for not showing up to events, or they'll make excuses for not being available to assist or even have phone calls or video chats. Pay attention to those things, because sometimes that's a cry for them saying, I'm isolating myself. Sometimes that's a cry for us to recognize, I'm sad at this time of year, or my heart is going through something that I can't explain to anybody else. Pay attention to those things. And then sometimes people will pretend like they're so busy when you try to spend time with them. Understand, sometimes that's just their way of deflecting, because if they have to have a conversation with you, they know the truth is going to come out. They know they have to be real with you. So pay attention that no matter what you try to offer as far as a time frame to spend time with them, to connect with them, if they always seem like they're too busy. Next thing they'll do, they'll ignore your calls or your text messages. Instead of getting angry about that, you guys, if it's somebody you love, somebody that means something to you, when they start doing that, take forth the extra effort to check on them. Whether you have to stop by their job, whether you have to stop by their house and ring the doorbell, make the extra effort because that's the love, that's the God in us that says, you know, that's not good enough. I need to know for sure that you're okay. And another thing that people do to give you that it's not so much of a verbal, but that nonverbal clue that something's going on during the holiday season. They withdraw from activities and hobbies that they used to enjoy. Hey, Marilyn, when you can think back and say, oh, let me call so-and-so, she loves doing this. And then the next thing you know, she's like, well, you know, I'm okay. I don't really like doing that anymore. Check on her. Check on her, because sometimes all people need you to do is ask one more question. We give up on people too easily, just because you really don't want to hear if something's going on. That's why you got to check yourself. That's why I have to check myself when I check on people. Make sure that my heart is right when I do it, because I need to have my spirit man listening at the same time as my flesh man is listening, because people will let you know that something is wrong, but you got to be willing and open to pay attention. So when you know they've enjoyed doing something their whole life and all of a sudden they don't want to do it anymore, a lot of times that's a sign of depression. You know, we do a depression screening at my job, and every patient, they hate it, but every patient that I put back in the room, I have to ask them 2 questions. First one is, do you feel down, hopeless, or depressed? And they can answer not at all, sometimes, most of the time, or all the time. And the second one is, and this is the one, do you find that you have little interest or pleasure in doing things that you normally like to do? That's a sign that something's going on. When you know somebody used to enjoy doing something and then all of a sudden they just retreat from it, you need to do some investigating and find out what's going on with them. And then another way people show you that they're going through something during the holiday seasons is they go home, they stay home, and they spend excessive time alone without really contacting anybody, without really reaching out to anybody. And one other thing is those superficial interactions. That's when they attend the event. They come to the Christmas party. They come to the ugly sweater party that you have, or the church Christmas function, but they move around so that they don't have to have deep conversations with anybody, because they want to be able to keep that smile on and keep moving around just so they can say, I went so nobody will ask me why I didn't come, and I don't have to hear this, and where were you? I don't have to do all that explaining. I'm just going to go and show my face. I've used that many times when I was going through. Let me just go and show my face. And that's what I did. I smiled and I moved around from person to person. That's called superficial interactions. That means I stand there and talk to you just long enough until it's uncomfortable, then I move around. Then I move around just before you can see that mask fall and see that I'm hurting, see that I'm sad, or see that I'm anxious about something, or I'm worried about something. I move around before my mask falls off. Those are those superficial interactions. So people give us signs that they're going through stuff, you guys. We just got to open our eyes. We just got to ask God to show us what we need to see and what we need to feel when we're interacting with those people. Hey, Marilyn, I don't know if I said hi. So why do we retreat to isolation? Well, I'm giving you 6 reasons why most people do it. Number 1, they're having mental health struggles. You know, mental health is one of those things that people don't want to talk about when you have a problem. That's those things where people judge you. You know, it's not easy to open up and say, hey, I've got this going on, or I'm feeling this kind of way, or I don't know why I can't stop crying, and I don't know why I can't stop worrying. Because people instantly start judging you. So it's a stigma to that, because everybody walks around pretending like they're okay 100% of the time. So when you see that one person that's not okay, you think it's odd, when that's actually normal. That person is actually being real, where most of us are just putting on a mask. So mental health struggles can be anything from anxiety, depression, a post-traumatic stress disorder. You know, if you've never been traumatized, and that's my next thing, trauma. If you've never been traumatized, if you've never been abused, if you've never been in fear of your life, if you've never had a life or death situation, if you've never been in a situation that you felt like you were stuck in and you didn't know how in the world you were going to get out of, you won't understand why a person who's gone through trauma will isolate themselves. You know, it's something about trauma that makes you distrust everybody. It's something about trauma that makes you question everything about yourself. Because the first thing I always ask myself when I gotten into a traumatic situation is, how did I get myself into this situation? I instantly always blamed myself for everything that happened to me. And it took me a long time. And I still work on that. And God is healing me from that. He's letting me see the whole thing. Not just what the enemy wants me to see. The enemy wants me to always blame myself, to see fault in me, to see weakness in me. But God lets me see the whole picture. That picture that says why I had to allow you to go through that, daughter. Why I had to let it happen that way, daughter. See, God tells you all of that. See, the enemy just keeps throwing up the situation in your face and tries to make you feel like you were the stupid one. You were the gullible one. You were the one, you know, that didn't have enough sense to keep yourself out of that. Where God will show you how that bad situation that he allowed you to walk through actually worked out for your good. So people that go through trauma, they have a hard time trusting people. They have a hard time trusting themselves. They have a hard time trusting their environment. You guys, it's a lot to trauma. And I don't fully understand it all. All I can do is talk to y'all about how hard it was for me to come back out and trust people again, to come back out and want to be around people again. You know, that's a hard thing, depending on what type of trauma you've had to endure. So that's the second reason why people isolate, is trauma. Number 3, low self-esteem. You know, that's one of those things that it's hard to explain, because people will always tell you, I can't believe you had low self-esteem. I can't believe you didn't think you were pretty. I can't believe you this. I can't believe you that. The mind is a very strange thing. It's like a sponge. And I know for me, growing up, what I heard the most about myself is what I believed. It takes time. It takes strength. It takes God to help you override what people say and get to the knowledge of the truth. You know, because people know when you have low self-esteem. And one thing I learned, and I didn't learn this as a young lady, but I know it now, men know when you have low self-esteem. And some men prey on that. Some men hope for women that have low self-esteem because they're easier to control. They're people pleasers. They don't want to lose that man no matter what that man does to them, no matter how he abuses them. Those type of women don't want to let go, and they know that they can get away with a lot with a woman with low self-esteem. And then sometimes even the people that are your so-called friends, like to gather and hang out with other friends that feel a little bit less about themselves, because that way they feel like the big person in the group. That way they feel like they can control what you do and how you do it, because all you want to do is belong. And so you have to be careful about the people in your circle. You know, do they really want what's best for you, or do they want to control you and to manipulate you? And when you have low self-esteem, sometimes it's hard to know the difference in that. And a lot of times you get hurt when you have low self-esteem, and then you get hurt, then you want to withdraw, and then you want to isolate yourself. And a lot of time in that isolation, that low self-esteem gets worse. Somebody literally has to come get you out of your isolation when you have low self-esteem. And I pray for anybody going through this that they have somebody that loves them enough to go and get you out of that situation. Number 4, another reason why people isolate, because they get burned out. Dealing with people, you guys, is something else. Dealing with the public is something else. Everybody seems to have this sense of entitlement. Depending on the color of your skin, some people feel like they're better than other people, and they want to be treated better than everybody else, and they expect you to know that and expect for you to fall in line with that. You know, and especially when your job is dealing with the public, you get tired. You get burned out. You know, you get tired of putting on the smile and saying, yes, ma'am, while people are disrespecting you. You get tired of saying, yes, sir, when somebody's yelling in your face. You know, people get tired. So they get burned out. And then when you're that kind of person that's a people pleaser and nobody seems to be satisfied with what you're trying to do to keep them happy, then you go back into your low self-esteem, and then you go back into isolation because your feelings get hurt, because they're not appreciating everything that you're trying to do for them. And so you get tired and you go into isolation. You don't want to deal with anybody else. I'm not going to trust anybody else. I'm not going to hang out with anybody else. I'm not going to try to do that. Nobody appreciates me when I try to give my all. Those are the things you say when you're burned out. And you tend to isolate yourself. Number 5, another reason why people isolate themselves, grief. You know, it's hard watching people laugh and smile and have a good time when your heart is broken. So a lot of times, rather than be around all of that, people will retreat and they will isolate themselves, and they will suffer in silence, and they will grieve in silence. And sometimes those people are right around you. And because we're not in tune, because we've got our own thing going on, because we've got our own drama in our own lives going on, we miss the people around us that are broken. We miss the people around us that are hurting. That's how we miss a lot of times those people who contemplate suicide, because we're so busy with our own stuff. It's right there in front of our face, and we miss the warning signs. And number 6, a simple reason why we isolate sometimes is because we just need to get away. Like I said earlier, I isolate myself sometimes. I just get away for self-care. And there's nothing wrong with that. But just don't stay too long. And sometimes you need to get alone so you can get your thoughts together. Sometimes you need to get alone so you can get with God and find out what He has to say about the matter, instead of all of the voices, all of the people giving their opinion, telling you what you should and shouldn't do about a situation. Sometimes you got to get away like Jesus did. How He got away from the multitude because they were just coming. Sometimes you got to get away just so you can think, just so you can rest, just so you can meditate. And there's nothing wrong with that. But just don't stay gone too long. And so often we isolate as a coping mechanism to manage something that's overwhelming. Sometimes we will allow what I like to call Goliath, which is that thing that keeps standing up to us, that thing that keeps overwhelming us, stressing us, keeping us from sleeping, making us overeat, making us not eat, making us sick to our stomach, making us want to lay in the bed all day. Sometimes rather than dealing with it, we isolate ourselves, thinking that the problem's going to go away. And like I've told y'all in many, hey Latoya, many different podcasts, I've mentioned how I used to try to avoid confrontation until God finally one day said, I'm going to put it all around you. I'm going to keep letting it come at you till you deal with it. Because I used to isolate. I said, you know what? This is going on over here. They don't want me over here, or they don't know how to act over here, and I don't want to be involved with this. And so I tried to isolate myself. And even in my isolation, things were still happening. And I wasn't getting any peace. I wasn't happy. I didn't have any joy. And I'm like, what is going on with me? I've separated myself. I've avoided this. I avoided that. I just didn't say nothing. I just left it alone. But it was still eating me up on the inside. I physically removed myself, but I did not remove myself mentally from the situation. But until I stood up to it for myself, and I set some things straight, and I let Goliath know, which was my problem. I let him know, you're not going to keep running me. You're not going to keep stressing me. You're not going to keep keeping me up at night. I'm going to deal with you right here and right now. We're going to settle it. So you can't run from your problems. They will just be waiting for you. But sometimes we try to isolate ourselves thinking that magically things are going to get better. Sometimes you got to have those hard conversations with those family members that are always keeping drama going. You know, you have to be the one to stand up to them sometimes. So isolating yourself is not an option. Isolation is good for strategizing, but eventually you're going to have to handle that thing, or it's going to keep handling you. And prolonged isolation can actually make your problems worse because you're not dealing with them. And we're conditioned not to show weakness, to put on a brave face. But these are the things that slowly kill us. When we're not honest about what we're going through, when we're not honest about how we feel about something, it's slowly killing you on the inside. And sometimes, you guys, we're even bold enough to pretend with God, to try to even not talk to God about what's going on with us, when He's the only person that can help us. And when we stop worrying about other people rejecting us and judging us, we can be honest and we can deal with what's dealing with us. Accepting help and admitting that you don't have it all together will actually strengthen your connections with other people and decrease the need to withdraw into isolation. You know, when we stop pretending, you guys, that we got it all together and start accepting the help that other people are offering us, especially when you know that person is doing it from a good place. And I know it's hard to tell because sometimes people do things for show, and sometimes you're going to miss the mark when judging that. But that's okay, because even when people do stuff for show, God has allowed the devil to bless me so many times because the devil was trying to show off and say, oh, I did this for Karen. Okay. But guess what? God blessed me anyhow. So I've learned to allow people to come in and out of my life. I've allowed people to help me when I believe that God has sent them. And if they come for the wrong reason, I leave that up to God. I let Him deal with them. But I'm honest about where I'm at. I'm honest about how I feel about things, and I'm honest about things that I'm still dealing with, simply because you never know who has what you need to heal you or what you need to get you to that next level. But if you're pretending all the time, how will they even know what to give you? How would they even know what to share with you if you're putting up a facade that you've got it all together? And that's the downfall of most of us, is that we've been taught that showing that we don't have it together all the time is a sign of weakness. And all of us can think of, you guys, at least one person that we haven't talked to in a while. And this is some homework I want y'all to do. Just for this holiday season, I want y'all to really reach down in your heart and ask God to bring up a person that you haven't talked to in a while. Someone who's been struggling, but they've been keeping a brave face. Ask God to put that person on your heart. That person that has been smiling through the tears. You've seen it. You may have just looked over it, but I'm asking God to put that person back in your heart, because they need your love right now. And what better time than Christmas time for you to do that for them? And these are the people that God gave us the compassion for. This is what the holiday season was supposed to be about. It was about making somebody else feel special. I know we like to catch all the sales. I know we like to have stuff for ourselves and this, that, and the other, but why don't we give a little bit more this year of ourselves? Because that's going to last that person the rest of 2026. If you show them the love that sometimes they don't even realize they need, it's going to help them get through the next 12 months. So I'm challenging everybody to either reach out by phone to whoever God puts on your heart. Do a video chat, send a text message, send them a gift. Just drop something off on their front porch and say, I was just thinking about you. Drop off a card, put it on the windshield of their car and just say, I just want you to know that I love you and that you have not been forgotten. You don't know what that will do for that person for this upcoming year. So while we're talking about isolation, some of you may be there. Some of you may be struggling right now. Some of you may be sick and tired of being sick and tired of dealing with people, because people are so unpredictable. But I want to talk for just a second about how we can overcome isolation, because I have to catch myself sometimes. Sometimes I just want to be by myself. I'm just over it, just tired of trying to make everybody happy. And so I have to encourage myself so that I don't get stuck in isolation. And one of the things you can do to overcome isolation is to make a decision. It all starts with a decision, you guys. What you think is going to be what you speak, and then it's going to be what you do. So just understand it all comes from a thought. So make a decision to actively connect with others. Even when you're tired after you get off from work, make a decision to reach out to one person and say, hey, I don't want anything. I just wanted you to know you were on my heart. I was thinking about you. I miss you, girl. And I hope everybody's good. And I just wanted to check on you. That's quick and to the point. A phone call. You can schedule a phone call. Give yourself 30 minutes in your day to say, I'm going to call this person and it's going to be for 30 minutes and then I'm going to get off the phone. A video chat, same thing. You can join a social group that has some of the same similar interests or hobbies that you have. That's one way of getting out of isolation. Connect with people that think like you, that like to do things that you like to do. And another way is to help others by volunteering. That was one of my best ways of getting out of isolation when I was feeling bad about myself, You know, when you see other people that don't have as much as you, that you feel like aren't as blessed as you. Sometimes we think stuff means blessing. We think houses and clothes mean blessing. And then you see those people just smiling at you and thanking you for whatever you're doing, whether you're at the soup kitchen or you're volunteering, you know, to give out clothes or baskets or whatever, and just how they're smiling at you. Sometimes we think that we've got it going on, and it's actually those people. Sometimes they've got it going on because their heart is in the right place. They're grateful. And a lot of times where our sadness comes from, where our loneliness comes from, where our isolating ourselves comes from, is the fact that we forgot to be grateful. And I've had to catch myself on that. And I've had to cry before God and say, God, I'm sorry that I have not been more grateful. And understand that whatever you give me, whatever I'm going on and doing in this life, whatever situation is before me, somebody's got it worse. And I know if you put it before me, or if I'm in the middle of it, I'm not by myself. And when you know those things, that's something to be grateful for. When you know that God has never left you or forsook you, and He's always gotten you out of every situation, that's something to be grateful for. And so a lot of times we just got to remember that it's not about stuff, it's about your heart. And another way to overcome isolation is to find purpose. You know, a lot of times you don't know why you're here. Why is God allowing me to still be here? Kindness is the first thing. That's all of our purpose, is to be kind. So why don't you start walking in kindness, and then God will show you everything else. If you walk in kindness, then you are walking in your purpose. So if you're ever lost as to what great thing you're supposed to be doing, the biggest thing that you can do is show love and kindness. I don't care what other awards you get, degrees, certificates, whatever titles you get. If you don't have love and you don't have kindness, it's just a bunch of noise. So let that be your purpose. Your purpose is before you. Kindness. Number 3, try establishing some healthy routines, like getting some good sleep, eating better, get outside and get out in nature. Go for walks as much as you can. The sunshine and nature will do wonders for helping you want to be out there and have more going on in your life. It's just something about seeing all the things God has done and all the things God has made. It encourages you to want to do better. And then practice self-care, simply because if you don't take care of yourself, how could you be of any value to anybody else? And number 4, you got to challenge yourself to do some things, at least one thing every day that takes you outside of your comfort zone. You know, one thing I have finally learned is that I can't grow unless I'm uncomfortable. I have to be able to do something that's beyond my own strength. Do something that's beyond what I'm used to doing. It stretches me a little bit, and that's how I grow. And that's also how you come out of isolation. Stop doing the norm and start doing something a little bit different so that you can get different results. And then make sure that you're nurturing yourself. You know, a lot of times we are so hard on ourselves and we give so much grace to everybody else. And I'm so guilty of that. You know, I can encourage you, I can pump you up, and I can tell you it's going to be all right. Everybody makes mistakes, and God hadn't forgotten about you, and I can see you doing this, that, and the other. But I used to have a hard time when it came to the woman in the mirror. I had a hard time forgiving myself. I had a hard time encouraging myself. I had a hard time saying those positive words of affirmation to myself. And over time, with practice, with consistent practice, now I know how to lift myself back up. I know how to be kind to myself. And then find hobbies, you guys, and understand that those hobbies say a lot about your personality. Learn some new things. Go back to some of those old things that you used to do that used to give you joy. Think back on those things and start doing those things again. And then at the same time, learn some new stuff. Get active with your exercise, because exercise releases endorphins. Walking, online classes, join a fitness club, whatever it takes to get that exercise going, because that's good for your mind and your body. Establish routines. Get structure in your life. That's one thing that has really blessed me, is when I started getting more organized, I started with organizing my house. That meant going through them closets, getting rid of old stuff, organizing the functionality of what I do use. Then I started going to those dresser drawers and those desk drawers in my house, those kitchen drawers. And it was something about organizing and getting things in its proper place. It did so much for me. It made me feel so much better about myself, because it gave me a sense of control that I thought I had lost. And sometimes we're just too cluttered down. That's why we feel like the weight of the world is on our shoulders. But you have the ability to do something about that. So create structure in your life. Even the things that you say yes to and what you say no to require structure. Your schedule requires structure, but you got to love yourself enough to do that. And you have to understand that you're only one person. You can only do one thing at a time. And there's no sense in stretching yourself too far. And be consistent about being orderly and being on time. Care for your body. When you feel a pain or when you feel like something's not right, go to the doctor, get yourself checked out. And then when you go to the doctor, listen to what they have to say. You don't always have to follow their every instruction. Do your own research. But take care of your body, because you will not get another one, not in this lifetime. And then practice shifting your mindset and understanding that you're not always right. Your perspective is not always the right one. You know, be able to acknowledge how you feel about things. You know, a lot of times we don't want to be honest about what hurts us or what gets on our nerves or what is causing us to have a setback, because we don't want other people judging us. But at the end of the day, that's your life. And I've gotten to the point, I know personally for me, that was a goal for me, to quickly let people know how I feel about things, whether it be about what they say, what they do towards me, and how they treat me. Now I speak up on those things, because I don't have a fear of losing people that don't know how to handle me properly. You know, I did a talk one time called Handle with Care. You know, if you don't care about yourself, how do you expect other people to care about you? So for me, to be able to handle myself with care, I'm very mindful of how people talk to me. I'm very mindful of what they do to me. I'm very mindful of the energy in the room, and if people feel genuine to me or not. You know, I don't know if it's because I prayed about it and got tired of people getting over on me and making a fool out of me and taking advantage of me. I don't know if that's why I can feel it so strong now, but there came a time when I was like, Lord, I'm tired of being the nice guy all the time. I'm the person that everybody walks on. I did a talk called The Doormat, You know, I got tired of being, no, it was called the welcome mat. I got tired of being that welcome mat that people wipe their feet on all the time. I said, I prayed for God for discernment. And he started letting me feel things that didn't feel right about people. He gave me that, you know, that makes you cock your head when somebody says something to you, where you say, come here, let me talk to you. Let's do that again. Explain that to me. What did you mean by blah, blah, blah? Now I have the boldness to do that because I love myself enough to get the right understanding. And I also had to learn how to let people go that was not going to appreciate me or not going to treat me right. And then embrace alone time and enjoy your own company sometime. Hey, Miss Christelle. And then do things in your alone time that help calm you down, that help get you to your center, to where you can be mindful of what's going on in your world around you. And also do things that calm you to the point where you can recognize when God is moving and recognize how God is blessing your life. You know, sometimes you have to get still to realize all the things God is working out on your behalf. Because sometimes you're moving and shaking so much, talking so much, got your hands in so much, you don't even realize how much God has already worked out without your help. And so when you're in your alone time, settle down so you can hear from God. Settle down so you can get some instructions and know how to move. You know, we all think that we know what we're doing in this world, but I will be the first one to admit I have no idea what I'm doing. All I know how to do is trust God. All I know how to do is pray that God guides me in the right direction and that I'm not so hard-headed that I don't listen. And then be kind to yourself. Talk to yourself with the same love and compassion that you give to everybody else. You know, I've heard women just really talk down on themselves before, and it just hurt me to hear them talking about themselves like that. And I would be quick to say, don't do that. Don't say those things about yourself. And they would be shocked to hear me say that. I said, because if I came to you and told you that same thing, you would be hugging me saying, girl, it's going to be all right. I said, why do you feel like you don't deserve the same? And that was a question I had to ask myself at one time. But now I know how to be kind to myself, because everybody deserves kindness. My final thought: prolonged isolation robs you of your joy, and it decreases your ability to cope with life's challenges. Y'all, life is going to bring stuff. There's no way to stop it. But going through it by yourself is not the answer. It's not the answer. So to sum it all up, life was meant to be walked out with other people. We need one another to truly survive with our minds intact, with our health intact. That requires us to work together. So have your me time when you need it, but just don't stay there too long. We need you to come outside, because life is meant for the living. And sis, that isolation that you've been in is slowly killing you. You guys, thank you so much for watching. I look forward to this holiday season, and I look forward to the new year to come. And I just want to say to you guys, I just appreciate y'all more than you know, just for taking the time to come on and listen to the podcast, because y'all bless me when y'all do that, because God gives me what he gives me, and he always sends it to the people that needs it. And I know how I am about receiving things. Sometimes I can't receive it right at that moment, but at the right time, in the right season, that thing always comes back to me. So I pray that I always say something that even if you can't use it right now, that later on, where there's a void, that word will come and you'll be like, oh yeah, I remember Sister Karen said, I remember Karen said on the podcast to do this, that, and the other. You know, I want to give us an opportunity to be sisters. I want us to have an opportunity to be vulnerable with one another, to be honest with each other, to be open with each other, because so much of life is a pretense, you guys. It's hard to find genuine love and sincerity. And that's what Sister I Got You is about. It's about people that can't look down on you. They can't point a finger at you because they would have to judge themselves. We've all been through some stuff. Nobody's got it together. We're all imperfect, but we're still God's children. And so I thank y'all so much for all of your support, and I continue to ask that you just keep on riding with me. We're going into 2026, Lord say the same, bigger and better than ever. And I want to believe for all of us that God has something so good for us in 2026 that we won't even be able to tell it all. And I pray for your families. I pray for your finances. I pray for your peace. I pray for your peace of mind. I pray for your health. I pray for your family, that God just keeps us all covered in his blood. And I thank you guys so much. And I'm going to see you guys in 2026. Lord, say the same. We're going to enjoy this Christmas holiday season and get to this New Year's. And then we're going to kick it off strong in 2026. I love you guys. Enjoy the holidays with your family and your friends. Love on everybody. Remember to call that person. Reach out to that person that you haven't talked to in a while. Let God put them on your heart. And you put forth good effort. You put forth good. You make God proud. Don't worry about making me proud. You make God proud by the effort that you show to show love to somebody else this season. Love you guys. Y'all take care. Merry Christmas. And I will see y'all in 2026. Love y'all. Thank y'all for watching. Talk to you soon. Bye.